Hey everyone, and welcome back to Relax and Calm Down. It feels like it's been ages since our last deep dive, and I gotta say I'm pretty pumped for this one.
Yeah, this is definitely a topic that's got everyone talking, it seems like.
Seriously, from like social media to even the CEO of a major chocolate company.
They're a really fascinating case study for sure, and one that touches on some pretty interesting psychological and social trends.
Exactly. So for anyone who's tuning in for the first time, basically you send us stuff that's caught your attention, right?
Yeah, articles, research, even just like your own notes.
Yeah, anything really, and we go full on detective mode.
Uncovering all those hidden insights and, those aha moments.
Exactly. Think of it as like a shortcut to being super informed
Yeah.
without having to sift through mountains of info yourself.
Kind of said it better myself.
And today's deep dive is all about, wait for it, Dubai chocolate.
Oh, yeah.
You hear that right? Something that seems like a totally simple dessert has caused massive queues, copycat recipes, and even—
Is that a while?
I know, right? Even debates about unsustainable consumerism.
Yeah, it's definitely grabbed attention worldwide. I think there's a lot more going on beneath the surface than we might realize at first.
Okay, so before we get totally lost in a chocolate-induced haze, let's just lay out the big questions we're going to tackle today.
Sounds good.
So first off, what even is Dubai chocolate, and like, how did it get so hyped?
Yeah, good question.
What's fueling this whole obsession? Is it just like pure FOMO?
That's a big one.
Or is there something deeper at play? And is this just like a flash in the pan trend? Or is it saying something bigger about our culture?
That's where I come in, I guess, trying to connect the dots and see what this chocolate craze is telling us about ourselves.
Yeah, you're like the Sherlock Holmes of dessert trends. That's a good way to put it.
Huh?
To kick things off, let's rewind back to the origins of this whole Dubai chocolate saga.
All right, back to the beginning.
Apparently, it all started with this pretty unique chocolate bar. And surprise, surprise, it was in Dubai, the Can't Get Enough of It bar. It was created by Fixed Dessert Chocolatier.
Yeah, they were the spark that kind of set this whole thing off.
I love the name Can't Get Enough of It, but what is it about it that has everyone going so crazy?
Well, it's really the combination of textures and flavors that's super unique. You've got crispy kadayif, which is kind of like this shredded pastry you often find in Middle Eastern desserts.
Oh, okay.
It's blended with pistachio and tahini paste, all encased in a chocolate shell and then dipped in pistachio cream.
Wow, okay, now I'm really interested. But here's the catch. You can only get the original delivered in Dubai. So how did this local treat become such a global phenomenon?
You can thank social media for that, specifically TikTok.
Oh, TikTok, of course.
Yeah, there was this video by a food blogger named Maria Vehera that showcased the chocolate, and it blew up. I think it got over 80 million views.
Whoa, that's a lot of people watching some very delicious looking chocolate.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good recipe for some serious FOMO.
For sure. I'm sure all of a sudden everyone outside Dubai was like, I need to try this thing.
Exactly, and since the original wasn't available, that's when we started to see the copycat recipes popping up, people waiting in these crazy long lines at shops that claim to have the real deal, and even the insane resale prices started to happen.
Yeah, it's classic supply and demand.
Totally. It makes sense.
So we've got this limited edition, visually stunning dessert blowing up online. That's like a marketer's dream come true.
Definitely. Prime conditions.
So naturally, a certain chocolate giant just couldn't resist getting in on the action.
I bet you're talking about Lindt.
Of course, who else would it be? It's fascinating how a company known for, those classic refined chocolates decided to dive headfirst into this trendy, almost chaotic world of Dubai chocolate.
Yeah, I get it. It's like a totally different vibe.
Right. Lindt, the masters of smooth, melt-in-your-mouth chocolate, decided they needed their own version of this Dubai sensation. And they went all out, limited edition release, special packaging, the whole 9 yards. They even had their CEO, personally handing out bars in Switzerland.
No way, really.
Yeah. Talk about a marketing stunt.
Definitely, they tapped into that fear of missing out perfectly and created this sense of urgency and exclusivity.
And it worked. I saw some of those Lindt bars being resold online for $350. Crazy, right?
Oh, wow, yeah. That brings us to this fascinating economic concept called Veblen goods.
Veblen goods. Okay, I've never heard of that.
Basically, they're products that become more desirable as their price goes up.
Really? So the more expensive, the more people want them.
It seems counterintuitive, but
Yeah.
yeah, precisely because they're associated with prestige and exclusivity.
Okay, that makes sense when you think about designer handbags or luxury cars.
Exactly.
But a chocolate bar, that's kind
Yeah.
of surprising.
It is, and it just goes to show how Dubai chocolate has really become this symbol of attainable luxury for people all over the world.
Right. You might not be able to afford a trip to Dubai, but you can buy a piece of that luxurious experience through this chocolate bar.
Exactly.
So is that what it's all about then? Like status and showing off, or is there something more to it? I mean, at the end of the day, it's still just a delicious dessert, right?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It seems like it.
And it's one we'll keep exploring as we dive deeper into this whole thing. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let me ask you, what's your take on all this so far? Does this Dubai chocolate craze seem like it's purely driven by hype, or do you think there's something more at play?
That's a good question. I definitely feel the FOMO myself, but there's also something about the creativity and the novelty of it all that I find really intriguing.
I agree. It's like this really complex mix of factors, which is what makes it so interesting to unpack. It's fascinating, right? Like, it's more than just the chocolate itself.
Yeah, for sure. There's this whole aura of like exclusivity and experience, you know?
Totally. And that's where this Dubai chocolate phenomenon taps into something really interesting, like this contrast. On the one hand, you have the celebration of indulgence, treating yourself to something special and different.
But on the other, there's this underlying critique, this questioning of whether it's all a bit, I don't know, extra.
I totally see that. Some people just see it as harmless fun, while others are worried about the potential for, like, unsustainable consumerism.
Right. It's like, what are our values?
Yeah. It's like holding up a mirror to ourselves and asking, what are we really prioritizing?
That's such a good point. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of something trending without thinking about the bigger picture.
I agree. I think it's so important to actually talk about this stuff, to like break it down and understand what's driving these trends.
For sure. Okay, so we've talked about the genius marketing, the psychology of luxury, but what about the chocolate itself? You know, we know it has this unique combo of ingredients, but how's it all put together?
So from the sources you gave me, it looks like there are a few key steps to creating that classic Dubai chocolate experience. It starts with tempering the chocolate, which is super important for getting that smooth, glossy finish and that like satisfying snap when you break a piece off.
Oh, yeah. I've tried tempering chocolate at home, and let me tell you, it's a lot harder than it looks.
Yeah, it's definitely tricky.
It takes real precision with the temperature and a lot of patience, that's for sure.
And then there's sourcing the ingredients, especially the kunafe pastry. That's what gives it that really distinct, crispy texture.
That's right. And speaking of kunefe, we found this awesome YouTube video by Tom Smallwood. He tries to make Dubai chocolate at home, and he says finding good quality kunefe was one of the hardest parts.
It's so interesting. It highlights another side of this trend, right?
Yeah.
The desire to recreate that authentic Dubai experience, even if it means like going above and beyond to find those specific ingredients.
That's so true. It's not enough to just grab some random chocolate bar. It has to be special, a real indulgence.
And it's amazing how that's led to so much creativity. There are tons of different interpretations of Dubai chocolate out there now, each with its own little twist.
Which brings us to, of course, the infamous Dubai anchovy chocolate.
Oh, yeah, how could we forget? That was the Turkish chef Mehmet Gezgin's masterpiece.
Anchovy chocolate. Talk about a bold take on the trend. It's almost like he's poking fun at the whole Dubai chocolate craze.
It definitely makes you wonder, is it real innovation or just a way to capitalize on the hype?
Right. Good question. But I think regardless of how you feel about anchovy-infused chocolate, there's no denying this whole trend has sparked a wave of culinary creativity.
And isn't that what's really exciting? I think it reminds us that even with these trends that seem kind of fleeting, there's still room to play around, push the boundaries, and discover new and surprising flavor combos.
Totally. It's about being curious about food and having a sense of adventure, not being afraid to try something new, even if it sounds a little, well, out there.
Exactly. Speaking of trying new things, I'm curious to hear from our listeners.
Yeah, me too. Let us know what you think.
Have any of you tried making Dubai chocolate at home? What was it like? We'd love to hear about your experiences, your successes, your fails, and maybe even your most creative flavor combos.
Great idea. We always love hearing from you guys. And while we're at it, if you're enjoying this deep dive into the world of Dubai chocolate, make sure you check out the other videos on our Relax and Calm Down channel.
Yeah, definitely. We've got tons of other cool stuff to explore, covering everything from mindfulness and meditation to personal growth and self-discovery.
It's all about finding those moments of calm and peace in the middle of everyday life. That's what we're all about.
Totally.
Okay, so back to Dubai chocolate. We've talked about its origins, the brilliant marketing, the psychology, the ingredients, but there's one super important thing we haven't really touched on yet.
You're thinking about the potential health implications, right?
Exactly. As much as we love indulging in this fancy treat, we need to be real about the downsides too.
That's true. And while a little indulgence here and there is totally fine, it's good to remember that Dubai chocolate, like a lot of desserts, is high in sugar and fat.
Yep. And as much as we hate to be the ones to say it, eating too much sugar can really mess with our health in the long run.
For sure, it can have some not so great effects.
We did some digging, and nutrition and dietetic specialists are definitely concerned about those long-term effects of all that sugar. They're linking it to things like blood sugar spikes, insulin resistance, and even a higher risk of type 2 diabetes.
It's not just about the quick sugar rush either. All that fat in Dubai chocolate can also contribute to weight gain and other health problems if you eat it too often.
So while we're all for enjoying the things you love, moderation is key, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's all about balance, right?
Hmm.
Having a piece of Dubai chocolate as a special treat, totally fine. But making it a daily habit, that's when those health concerns become a real issue.
This reminds me of something we've talked about before, that whole idea of mindful consumption. It's not about depriving yourself, it's about being aware of what you're putting in your body and why.
Exactly. Asking yourself, am I really enjoying this? Or am I just caught up in the hype? Can change how we approach these food trends.
And it's funny, it's interesting how this whole Dubai chocolate trend has gotten such different reactions from people. Some are all about the creativity and the cultural exchange it represents, while others see it as unsustainable consumerism.
Right. It just goes to show that even something as simple as a chocolate bar can be looked at in so many different ways.
I know, right?
And those different perspectives make these conversations so important.
Totally. It's not about saying one side is right or wrong. It's about understanding the nuances in the bigger picture.
And maybe it's about realizing that our relationship with food is really complex. It's about taste, culture, social connection, and our own personal values and beliefs. It's a lot more than just what's on our plates.
Yeah, you're right. It's multi-layered for sure. It really is. There's so much to consider. Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground today, right? We've talked about where Dubai chocolate came from, the marketing that made it so popular, the whole psychology of luxury and exclusivity, how hard it is to make it at home, and of course the potential health stuff.
It's been quite the deep dive, that's for sure. And I think it's safe to say that Dubai chocolate is way more than just a tasty treat. It's become a whole cultural thing that reflects how our relationship with food, social media, and even consumerism is changing.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. Now that we've explored this Dubai chocolate craze, what other examples of those Veblen goods come to mind for you, either in your own life or just in society in general? Like, what makes us want these types of products so much?
It's a really good question to think about. And if this whole deep dive got you curious about the psychology behind how we consume things, or maybe you're just craving some amazing chocolate now, definitely check out the other videos on the Relax and Calm Down channel.
Yes, please do. We have so much other great content exploring all sorts of things, from mindfulness and meditation to personal growth and figuring out who you are.
We're all about finding those little pockets of peace and calm in the middle of all the craziness of life.
That's what it's all about. Thanks for coming along on this deep dive into the world of Dubai chocolate with us. We hope you learned some cool new stuff, maybe see things from a different angle now, and who knows, maybe you even discovered a new craving or two.
Until next time, stay curious, stay mindful, and always remember a little bit of what you love can go a long way.
Thank you for being here with us.